I know you told us today that after practice you were a little bit nervous going in just because you hadn't played in a while. Was there a moment you kind of got over that, said, all right, I'm good, I'm back to where I was before I got hurt? And I think you hit that one step back three that sort of bring sort of some comfort in some ways, the sort of part we saw.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I feel like when I touched the basketball to start warming up before the practice even started, that's probably when I felt pretty comfortable. But
Watch her face carefully right there. That's not just nervousness about getting back on the court. That's 6 months of isolation, frustration, and doubt finally breaking through. Caitlin Clark just admitted something most superstars never say out loud. She had to prove it to herself again. After a 7-year streak of never missing a single game, the ankle injury that ended her 2024 WNBA season didn't just sideline her body. It broke something mentally. And what happened at this USA...
You previously said that there was no disappointment when you weren't selected for the 2024 Paris Olympics because it gave you something to work toward. Reflecting back on the past year and a half, and making your first senior camp, what does this moment mean for you, and why is this the right time for you?
yeah, I mean, I think anytime you can do a USA basketball related camp, or obviously in my past, it's been all junior national teams. And, I've been cut from some of those and I've played for 3 of them. So I think I've experienced both sides of it. And, this is the biggest honor you can possibly have, and playing basketball in our country is wearing USA across your chest. So, I'm just excited to be here and honored. Obviously, it's kind of like the start to the new Olympic cycle. And
basketball camp in Cleveland reveals just how deep that break actually went. February 2025, USA Basketball's senior national team camp. This is Caitlin's first appearance since the Olympic snub that dominated headlines last summer. Remember the narrative back then? She needs more experience. The team chemistry is already set. She'll get her chance. All the diplomatic explanations that didn't quite add up when you looked at her rookie season numbers. 19.2 points per game. Rookie of the year. Single-handedly changing WNBA television ratings. But here's what nobody saw coming. Between that Olympic disappointment in July and this camp in February, Caitlin...
I put together a pretty incredible stretch of never missing a game. And, the fact is, when you're a professional athlete, it's going to come at some point. That's just how it goes. I think it's honestly taught me more than I've probably ever learned through the course of my career of, how to take care of your body, how to get right, how to stay healthy, and then just taking time for yourself. Like, obviously being hurt is an incredibly isolating thing, and you don't really understand it until you go through it. And then I think the challenge for myself was just, it was one injury, and then it was like a little better, and then it kind of continued to compound and get worse, and, other things pop up. And then I had the ankle injury. So it feels nice to finally be back to 100%. And in a way, at the end of the WNBA season, like, obviously I did everything I could to try to be able to come back.
Clark basically disappeared. Not by choice. The ankle injury she suffered in late 2024 turned into what she describes as a compounding nightmare. One injury led to another. Then the ankle got worse. And suddenly the player who hadn't missed a game since high school was watching from the sidelines, unable to help her team make a playoff push. That phrase she used, incredibly isolating, that's not throwaway language. Professional athletes are conditioned to never show weakness, never admit vulnerability. The fact that she's saying it out loud tells you how dark those months actually got. And notice what she says next. It took longer than expected. Translation? This wasn't a clean recovery. This was grinding through rehab every single day while watching your team struggle without you, while dealing with the mental weight of wondering if your body would...
Obviously, this camp has a lot of younger players. What can you say just about all of you being able to come together and kind of signify this start of this new Olympic cycle, with all of you being together and being so familiar with each other?
Yeah, and I think a lot of us have familiarity, whether we were playing on junior national teams together or whether we played versus each other in college, or, obviously playing now versus each other in WNBA, or some of us obviously are teammates as well. So, we know each other pretty well. I think it obviously speaks to the way USA Basketball does such a great job at the junior national team levels of really getting you kind of involved in the program and understanding what USA Basketball is about. You understand how big of an honor it is to be able to do this. And if you're lucky enough to do it just once. That's incredibly cool to represent your country. So I think for us, like being able to have that and then come into this national team camp together, it just is a thing of comfort, but also like we're all very competitive and you want to be surrounded by the best at the same time. And I think that's kind of the feeling all around for all of us.
Ever feel the same? The timeline matters here. Her injury issues started in late September. The Indiana Fever season ended in October. That means Caitlin had roughly 4 months to get back to 100% before this USA basketball camp. For months of daily rehab. For months of working with trainers who didn't take a break either because they're invested in her success. For months of wondering if that step back 3 would ever feel natural again. But there's more to this story than just physical recovery. This camp represents a massive generational shift in USA basketball. The old guard, Sue Bird, Diana Taurasi, Sylvia Fowles, they're gone or on their way out. This is the new era. And USA basketball is essentially saying, Caitlin, you're part of the foundation we're building toward 2028. That's a massive statement because remember, 8 months ago, she wasn't good enough for the Paris Olympics team. Now, she's being positioned as a cornerstone of the next.
Another thing that we need to get done so we have so we have a season coming up here. But I think more than anything, it showcases what people think of women's basketball. All of these different opportunities, all these different leagues. The platform that they want to give women's basketball, where they think women's basketball is going to continue to grow. I think that's probably the thing that pops into my mind is just that of like people are really believing and putting their money where their mouth is. And that hasn't always been the case for women's basketball, no matter how great it's been over the course of, the last 25, 30 years. And so I think for myself, like that's probably what I'm most proud of is just how, excited and people.
Olympic cycle. What changed? Well, her rookie season happened. The ratings explosion happened. The sold-out arenas happened. The proof that she's not just a college phenomenon, but a legitimate professional star. That all happened. And USA basketball watched it happen while their Olympic team struggled to generate the same excitement. But let's talk about the elephant in the room, the money. Caitlin dropped a line that should make everyone pay attention. People are really believing and putting their money where their mouth is. She's talking about Unrivaled, the new 3-on-3 league that's trying to compete with the WNBA. But she's also talking about something much bigger, the fundamental shift happening in women's basketball right now. For decades, everyone said they supported women's sports. They said the right things. They praised the athletes. But the investment, the actual financial commitment that never materialized at scale until now. Unrivaled is backed by serious money. The WNBA just secured a new media rights deal worth $2.2 billion over 11 years. A massive increase from the previous $60 million annually. Expansion teams are selling for $50 million each.
So she knows just as good as anybody else what USA basketball is all about, winning a gold medal. And then additionally, like she's been a part of a lot of different Olympic teams, whether it's 3-on-3 stuff, whether it's obviously an assistant coach at the last gold medal. But I think it's just the energy she brings. And I think that impacts every single person in the gym. And I think that's a really powerful thing as a coach. So I think that was, this is really my first time around Coach Kara as well. Like I don't have a prior relationship with her. So obviously it's been good to get to know her over the course of this first few days. But I think for myself, it's just the energy and the competitive spirit that she brings as a coach. I think that's really impacts players and what they want to bring on the court as well.
And suddenly Caitlin Clark is at the center of a bidding war for her attention. Unrivaled reportedly offered her over $1 million for a short season. The WNBA wants her in their league. USA Basketball wants her available for international competition. This is unprecedented leverage for a WNBA player. And notice how carefully she navigates the question. She doesn't commit to Unrivaled. She doesn't reject it either. She just says she plans to play in the WNBA and leaves everything else open. That's the move of someone who understands her value and isn't going to limit her options. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The head coach of this USA basketball camp, Cheryl Reeve, 3 WNBA championships with the Minnesota Lynx. Assistant coach for team.
Well, first of all, obviously it's great to see Cam. Last time I played USA basketball, I'm pretty sure she was on the team, or maybe that was 2 times ago, but she was actually my roommate one of the times that I played USA basketball. So I've known her for quite some time now, and then obviously throughout college continued to build our relationship, and then even now professionally. So it's always good to see people that you've known for 5+ years and even longer now. I mean, it was the U16 team was the first team I ever played on, and I think I was 15. So it's been almost 9 years now, which is pretty incredible, the course of this journey. And then golfing wise, I'm not really quite sure like who's all big into golfing in the WNBA. So I don't know, maybe I'd love to get out there and play with some different players, but I put the golf clubs away now. Like I'm truly focused on basketball. It makes my body a little bit sore. So I'd rather just stick to basketball, but I love it. And it's always great to be
USA at the Paris Olympics. And now she's taking over as head coach of the national team. Caitlin's talking about Reeves' energy and competitive spirit. But there's a subtext here worth examining. Reeve was part of the coaching staff that left Caitlin off the Olympic roster last summer. She was in those meetings. She was part of that decision. So what does it mean that Reeve is now leading the program Caitlin is entering? Is this a fresh start? Is this Reeve's way of correcting what many saw as a mistake? Or is this simply the natural evolution of the program and Caitlin's Olympic snub is ancient history now? The answer probably matters less than the optics, because from the outside it looks like USA basketball is making sure they don't miss the Caitlin Clark era twice. And then there's Cameron Brink. That's her roommate at this camp, and that detail is not insignificant. Brink and Clark have history going back 9 years to the U16 national team. They've been through the USA basketball system together. They know what it takes to represent the country at the highest level. And now they're both professional players trying to establish
NBA season with just all my rehab and getting back to where I wanted to be, and then getting even better. So that's been kind of my focus. And, this has kind of been my next thing that I've been working for since our season ended, and just really thankful for, the training staff and player development and everybody that has kind of been there with me. They haven't taken a break either, because they invest a lot of time and they want me to be successful. So I think for myself, like it's not proving it to yourself again, but it's just that feeling. And I think it just made me smile quite a bit. Like I really did kind of feel like myself out there and just continuing to get my lungs back. But I felt like I was moving really well. So it was pretty satisfying.
Themselves in the national team hierarchy. But here's what makes this reunion particularly interesting. Cameron Brink suffered a torn ACL in June 2024, ending her rookie WNBA season. So you have two of the most hyped rookies from the 2024 draft class, both dealing with significant injuries, both grinding through recovery, both showing up to this camp trying to prove their bodies are ready. That shared experience creates a bond. They understand what the other went through in ways that healthy players simply can't. And then there's the golf comment. She's putting the clubs away, focusing purely on basketball, making sure her body doesn't get sore from activities that aren't directly helping her game. That's the mindset of someone who learned a hard lesson about taking care of herself. Someone who's not going to risk anything that might compromise her availability ever again. Now, here's what makes this entire situation so compelling. Caitlin Clark spent 7 years without missing a single game. 7 years. High school, college, that unprecedented stretch of availability that made her one of the most reliable players in basketball at any level. Then she gets to the WNBA, plays through an incredibly demanding rookie season with pressure unlike anything she'd experienced before, and her body finally says enough. The ankle injury wasn't just bad luck. It was the culmination of years of wear and tear finally catching up. And what she learned during those months of rehab, how to take care of her body, how to stay healthy, how to be a better teammate even when you can't play. Those lessons might end up being more valuable than anything she could have learned on the court. Think about the mental fortitude required to go from being the most dominant player in college basketball to Olympic snub to injured rookie watching her team lose without her to this moment at USA basketball camp where she's smiling again because she finally feels like herself. That's not just physical recovery. That's psychological resilience. And it's exactly what you need to survive at the highest levels of professional basketball. The USA basketball camp represents a turning point, not just for Caitlin's career, but for how she approaches the game moving forward. She's not the invincible college star anymore. She's a professional who's been humbled by injury, who understands her body's limits, who knows what it feels like to be isolated and helpless. That experience either breaks you or makes you stronger. And based on what we saw at this camp, the smile when she touched the basketball, the confidence in her movement, the gratitude toward the trainers who stayed with her through the grind, it's pretty clear which direction she's heading. USA Basketball made a choice last summer to leave her off the Olympic roster. Whether that was the right basketball decision or not, it sent a message. You're not there yet. Now, 8 months later, after a Rookie of the Year season and a humbling injury recovery, they're bringing her into the fold. They're positioning her as a cornerstone of the next Olympic cycle. They're betting that the Caitlin Clark who shows up in 2028 will be worth the wait. But here's the thing about Caitlin Clark. She doesn't forget. She remembers being cut from junior national teams. She remembers the Olympic snub. She remembers every slight, every doubt, every time someone said she wasn't ready. And she uses it. That chip on her shoulder isn't going anywhere. If anything, the injury just added another layer to it. So when you watch her at this USA basketball camp, smiling because she feels like herself again, don't mistake that for satisfaction. That's not someone who's content with where she is. That's someone who just got back to the starting line and is ready to prove everyone wrong all over again. The Olympic snub motivated her. The injury humbled her. And now she's got both fuel sources running at the same time. The next few years are going to be fascinating because we're not just watching a talented player recover from injury. We're watching someone who's been through the full cycle, dominance, rejection, injury, recovery, and is coming out the other side with a clear understanding of who she is and what she's capable of. That's dangerous. Dangerous for opponents. Dangerous for doubters. Dangerous for anyone who thought the Caitlin Clark era might be over before it really began. USA Basketball sees it. That's why she's at this camp. The WNBA sees it. That's why the new TV deal is worth billions. Unrivaled sees it. That's why they're offering her $1 million. Everyone sees it except the people who are still stuck on the narrative that she's overhyped or overrated or not ready for the big stage. Those people are going to have a very difficult few years ahead of them because Caitlin Clark just told us exactly what's coming. She worked through 6 months of isolation and injury to get back to 100%. She didn't take a break. Her trainers didn't take a break. And now she's back on the court, smiling, moving well, feeling like herself again. That's not the end of a comeback story. That's the beginning of the next chapter. And if you're not paying attention yet, you're already behind.